I really did think that the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump was going to be the biggest story of the week. And then all of a sudden, Diddy and his 1,000 bottles of lube came out. Hey, I'm Channing Curtis, a journalist and a news anchor. I do these weekly news story recaps for you right here on YouTube. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button because we have a lot to talk about this morning on the Coffee Chat. So, of course, I'm going to break down the full Diddy indictment and 3 federal charges in just a few minutes. But first, let's get to the first big story that happened earlier this week. Of course, that was that second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So a 58-year-old man named Brian Wesley Routh has been arrested in connection with this second assassination attempt. Now, this all happened at a golf course there in Florida where former President Trump was playing. Secret Service says that they spotted a rifle peeking out of the bushes. Secret Service fired some shots. Person ran off. A witness was able to see this person getting into an SUV. And Secret Service found there at the scene a couple of backpacks, a rifle, and then a camera, what looked like a GoPro. So at the time that they assumed that he was going to try and maybe shoot the president and then record it all as well. Right now, though, Ralph is only charged with 2 firearm charges. One of them is for having a gun as a convicted felon because he does have a pretty interesting rap sheet. And the other is for having a gun with an obliterated serial number, meaning that the serial number was pretty much scratched out of it. Other charges could still be coming as this investigation continues. So sticking with election news for just a second here. Now, both the presidential candidates were back on the campaign trail over the last week. And one interesting headline that came out this week was that the Teamsters decided not to endorse either candidate. Now, traditionally, the Teamsters do tend to endorse the Democratic candidate, but apparently there was a little bit of infighting within the union, as the Teamsters does represent several different unions, and they are the largest union in the U.S. And as a matter of fact, they are the only one of the major 10 union groups that did not endorse a candidate for this election. So it is pretty interesting, the fact that they didn't endorse Kamala Harris, because many experts were expecting them to do so. In entertainment news, the primetime Emmys were held last Sunday. They were hosted by Dan and Eugene Levy. I thought they did a really good job hosting. Their personalities really shine through, and they had a really fun little kind of back and forth repertoire they're kind of known for doing. Of course, if you watch Schitt's Creek, they were the exact same as host. It was really cute and funny. Some really big moments. The Bear won for comedy. I still can't figure this out, and I actually had to go and look this up, but apparently there are not really any stipulations on how someone enters in a show for a particular category. So if you feel like your show is a comedy, then you can enter it in the comedy category, and that's essentially what the creators of The Bear have done. Yes, The Bear does have some funny moments. If you haven't watched it, it's a really good show on Hulu or FX. But it's not what I would call comedy if you're comparing it to other shows, like, for example, Abbott Elementary. Anyways, though, of course, The Bear won big that night, but the really big winner was Shogun, taking home the most awards, especially when you combine them with the Creative Arts Awards as well that they won. But they also got the first 2 acting awards for Japanese actors. In other entertainment news, Tito Jackson, one of the founding members of the Jackson 5, an older brother to Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson, sadly died. Now, at this time, we still don't know the details of his death or what happened. His sons released a statement on social media talking about his passing, but yeah, there are still no real updates as to what happened to it. All right, let's talk travel news, because this is a really exciting one for anyone who is getting ready to travel internationally or plans on doing so in the next couple of years. They might need to renew their passport. That's because you can now renew your passports online. I am so excited about this one. You used to have to mail in your information and send in a photo and your fee and all this kind of stuff. Now you can just do it all online. There are some stipulations though. Then now the renewal cost is the exact same as it was before, $130. You do have to be an adult, so you cannot renew a passport for a child. You can only do an adult passport, and you do have to live within the United States via either state or territory. Some big news for WNBA fans. Portland is getting a WNBA team for the second go-round. You might remember the Portland Fire, who were around for about 2 seasons and very quickly fizzled out. See what I did there? Anyways, well, Portland is getting a new team. They will be an expansion team for the 2026 season, bringing now the number of WNBA teams to 15. If you are keeping track, the WNBA commissioner has said that she wanted the league to be at 16 teams for the 2026 season, so there should be one more expansion team. And we cannot talk sports this week without talking about Shohei Ohtani. He is now the only and the founding member of the 50-50 club, meaning he got 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases in one season. And while he did that, he earned his team a trip to the postseason and his very first trip to the postseason in general. All right, so what are we watching this week? I mean, I know it's football season and that takes up my Thursdays, my sometimes Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I have a free block or two. And so here's what I'm watching right now. On Netflix, if you are into true crime, or maybe it's just that time of year where you're into something a little bit darker, trust me on this one. You're going to want to check out Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter. It's just 2 episodes, but it's this unbelievably, wildly fascinating story about this woman who is notified that her daughter that she let go for adoption when she was 16 is missing, and her attempt to find her. It takes so many turns and goes so many places that I never thought it would. It's absolutely wild. I binged it in a day and I regret nothing. But just a heads up though, this one is dark. It is a true crime, so just do with that what you will. Now for something lighter, over on Apple TV, Palm Royale. So I'm a little bit late on this one, but I am absolutely obsessed with this show. So it stars Kristen Wiig, so you know it's going to be hilarious. And it's all about Palm Beach during the 60s and about these very high society women. And Kristen Wiig, who is not a high society woman, is trying to get into this very exclusive club so that she can become a high society woman. It is absolutely hilarious. Takes so many random storylines. It also stars Ricky Martin, and I absolutely adore him in this role. He's so cute and such a great best friend kind of role to Kristen Wiig, even though she doesn't really know it yet. But anyways, it's a really good one if you're looking for something a little light, but that's still very entertaining. Now back on the slightly darker side of things, Max just debuted The Penguin. This one stars Colin Farrell, and I still cannot believe that is him underneath all of those prosthetics and all of that makeup. I haven't watched all of this yet. Actually, I was just watching before I started recording, and it is already really good. It definitely has more of that kind of darker Batman feel, but it's still a really interesting character arc so far, and I'm only about halfway through the first episode. First episode is a little over an hour though, so just beware, they're a little bit lengthy. Make sure you let me know what you're watching. If there's anything that you've been enjoying lately, let me know there in the comment section. I can always use a good recommendation. Y'all, I almost messed up. I almost forgot to talk about Diddy. Listen, let me put my cup down. So, Diddy got arrested this week. The day he gets arrested, nobody really knew the charges. The indictment was sealed until the next day. Y'all, that indictment dropped around 8:15, and when I tell you I was reading it by 8:17, I was literally on air. For those of you who don't know, I am a news anchor. I was literally reading it on air in the commercial breaks. Now, granted, it was a very short indictment. It was only about 14, 15 or so pages. For 3 charges, that's not very long. But it was so juicy. So Diddy is charged with 3 crimes: conspiracy to racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation. Essentially, what the Department of Justice and prosecutors are saying is that Diddy was taking women and forcing them into performing sexual acts either on him or on sex workers or other people through his parties that they call freak-offs. And in these different events, he would often drug women, abuse women in various ways, and even take his other staff members and other employees from his various companies to help him do this. They also are alleging that he used the money from his various companies to help fund these different things, whether it was through plane rides or even drugs or hotel stays, all that kind of stuff. So you might remember a few months back when the Department of Homeland Security and other law enforcement raided 2 of Diddy's homes. Well, apparently, according to this indictment, when they raided his homes, they found a lot of different things, including guns, ammunition, lots of different kinds of drugs, and 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube. There's so many questions about that. Where do you get that much? Johnson and Johnson like wasn't alarmed when you were like, hey bro, let me get like several cases of this. Like, what? I don't even think Costco has that kind of supply. But anyways, very disgusting. But the indictment also talked about a lot of other things. One of the things that it actually mentioned was something that his ex-girlfriend Cassie actually went through. You might remember the R&B singer who had a similar case against Diddy. Well, I guess not really similar because it wasn't a federal charge and it was civil. But anyways, also had some allegations that came out against him and that were actually very proven to be true when not too long later, video evidence of him just beating the mess out of that girl at a hotel. So that actual incident is actually brought up in the indictment. Of course, they don't mention Cassie by name. Since all of these charges have come out, though, things have just spiraled and gotten worse and worse. So then apparently one of the members of his former Making the Band group, Dana Kane, is now suing him and has also made several allegations against him, saying that he held her against her will at one point for one of these freak-off parties where he was forcing himself on women who seemed to be not coherent and not able to give consent to any of the things that were happening to them. So in addition to that, other text messages have come out between Diddy and his ex Cassie in the aftermath of some of his alleged attacks on her, and even some of his text messages between him and some of the alleged victims. Now, prosecutors have said that they have talked to more than 50 victims and witnesses in building their case. And it seems like, you know what, a lot of those witnesses carry a lot of weight because Diddy tried to get bail not once but twice with two different judges, and both times he was denied bail, mostly because the judges were afraid that he would try and pressure witnesses into either not testifying against him or into not speaking at all. Now, Diddy is currently being held in a jail in Brooklyn. His attorneys are trying to get him transferred to another jail because the one that they're in, they feel it's not safe for him. And it's a jail that has a bit of a reputation for being pretty dangerous. In the meantime, though, just know that Diddy will be staying in jail for the duration of this trial. He will not be getting out. He was not given bond. So yeah, if he does not get transferred, he'll be at that same jail in Brooklyn throughout his trial. Now, with those three different charges, they each carry their own potential jail sentences. However, just know that life in prison is on the table. All right, guys, that's all for this morning's coffee chat. Thanks so much for joining me here on this Sunday morning. Give me a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this kind of news content here on YouTube.